Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Leigh, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle, and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning. Hope you guys are all doing fantastic and staying warm. I know temperatures have been all wonky all across the country. I know even here in Florida, it was 57 when we woke up this morning. Big difference from our 80s that we've been having, but hope you guys are staying warm. Summer will be here soon, and you guys are going to be wanting the cold weather back again, I'm sure. But anyway, I'm so glad to have you guys with me. Today, I have Tim, amazing guy. He's going to be coming on to talk about his events, his experiences in the paranormal, excuse me, and to talk all things paranormal. So make sure you have your questions ready for us, and we will be more than happy to answer those. So he should be joining me in about 30 minutes. But until then, I do want to do a quick shout out to my sponsor. For those of you who haven't heard, Omni Interactions is a work from home company and the perfect job for a paranormal investigator. So make sure you stay tuned for more information about them before we go to our commercial break. Until then, you guys know really no topic to talk about. I did want to bring up a few things because I know one thing that Tim and I are going to be talking about is hosting paranormal events. So I kind of wanted to just bring up different things. I've had a lot of people ask me, because I've hosted smaller events in the past. They're like, hey, Heather, what do I do? You know, how do I set up? I want to set up a different, a small ghost hunt. I want to set up a tour. And hopefully in the future, I'm going to have my friend Larry Lawson on. He actually runs Indian River Hauntings, and he's also the founder of the Indian River County Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations, as well as the International Bureau of Paranormal Investigations. And I'm hoping to have him on this show in the morning, but of course it's a morning show, and I'm not sure if I can get him on that early with his work schedule and all of that. But we will get him on, and we will make sure that we get all that information to you and the experiences that he has hosting his tours, which are absolutely amazing. The other question I get from people is, hey, Heather, I want to do things different. I want to host a educational event. I want to share with people different things on, about the paranormal. I want to give people firsthand experiences in paranormal research. So I'm going to kind of go over a few things to help get you started if that's something you might be interested in. So good morning, Lee and Phoenix. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you guys here, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed today's show. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You guys know I'm always happy to answer. And again, if I don't know the answer to the question, you can count on on the fact that I'm going to research it and try to figure it out for you. And the other reason why I wanted to kind of cover hosting a paranormal event is because I'm actually doing a presentation on it for Ghost Education 101. So that'll be coming up in the near future here. But if you guys want to host a paranormal event, and it's a great way to bring awareness to the field. It shows people, different aspects on investigating, gives people experience. Going to one of these events kind of gives them an idea if they really like it or not. Also, my favorite thing to do on vacation is go on a ghost walk or a ghost tour. Me, these take a lot of time to plan, especially if you want it done right. And there's many, many benefits to making sure it's done right, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And you kind of want to start off by knowing what type of event. I know I've covered most of them, but we have everything, you got to keep in mind, not all events are the same. And you look at all the events that are out there right now, and you have these big conventions, these medium-sized conventions, just kind of the locations that you go and do the paranormal investigation. And then you also have some that, combine. You can also combine different aspects of events together to make, a hybrid event. So just kind of be creative. One thing I do suggest is try not to do what anyone else is doing in your area. If there's already a ghost walk, don't do a ghost walk, maybe do a ghost hunt or something like that. So you kind of can do a whole bunch of different things. So the different types of paranormal events that I came up with, and if you guys can think of any additional types of events, definitely please let me know, because I'm always open to new ideas. But of course, you have the ghost walks, anything from candlelight tours to, walking tours. Then you have the ghost hunt, which can include anything from seances to visuals, different techniques, different gadgets. You kind of want to know going in which type of paranormal investigation you guys are going to host. Guided tours. It could be of a location. If you have a haunted jail or a haunted, library, or a closed down haunted hospital that is open, for tours or whatever, you can do a guided tour through there. Storytelling events, just kind of gather everybody. These are perfect at the library. And sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice again. But these you can host at a library or a conference center, and just kind of gather around and share stories. Or you can do it for educational and training purposes. I am so sorry. Okay, Lee wants to know, have you ever done research at the Riverview Hotel in New Smyrna Beach, Florida? No, I have not. That is actually one that's on my list. I have done St. Augustine, love St. Augustine. And actually, that's because I loved it so much. That's actually the biggest chapter in my book. So many experiences there. I know my co-host from Ghost Education 101 had a lot of experiences, and I'll have to pull them up again, and I'll share those next week with you guys. But yeah, that ended up being the biggest chapter of my book. And Eldora, I've never heard of Eldora, but I've heard of Mount Dora. Is that what you're meaning, Lee? I just kind of want to check to make sure I have the right location. And good morning, Keith. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Okay, so yeah, like I was saying, if you guys want to host I'm trying to think of some places that I've done different events. I know I've done the ghost tours in Gettysburg. Mark Nesbitt is amazing. I actually did, and they had this was years ago, so I don't even know if they have the same type of tours, but they did a candlelight tour with a stop at a local coffee shop that was just a cute little place to sit. And I ended up visiting that location over and over and over during our stay there. You have Charleston, South Carolina had a whole bunch of different tours, so we took the tour there. I'm trying to think. Williamsburg, I've taken the tour, and also Savannah. And there's so many fun things to do. Old Sediment by Anna. No, I haven't been there. I'll have to look into that. I'm definitely going to have to. I need to get out more often in Florida. My knee surgery kind of put me a little bit behind, but yeah, definitely I'm going to have to put those on my list to get to and do some research for, because I know the next book I'm working on is trying to think of it. It's the Haunted Florida Ghost Towns, and I could not believe how many Florida ghost towns there are. So we're going to be going around and it's a beautiful area there. I don't get there as often as I would love to. I tend to visit Treasure Island area and Madeira Beach. I love John's Pass. You guys have probably heard me talking about that in the past, and I'm hoping. I know that there was, but I can't get any information on it. I'm still trying to find out if they're still offering the tours. But they seem to either be on hold or taking a break, or just not doing them anymore. But there was a tour out of John's Pass that I was looking into, possibly either not taking over their business, but starting up a different type of tour than what they offer through one of the marinas there. Definitely a lot of spooky things happen there, and that is one of my favorite places to go. But yeah, I'm going to have to write those down and try to get to them more often. I'm kind of curious. Have you had any experiences, Leigh, at those locations? Just kind of curious as to what your experiences were there. So, and real quick then, so we still have about 20 minutes before my guest arrives, and I am going to, I definitely need to add Eldora to Ghost Town of Florida. I'm going to have to definitely do that. I'm actually going to write that down before I forget. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Leigh. And okay. So getting back to the events. Before you do anything, I guess it's the OCD in me. You want to make sure that you plan everything out as much as you can. Kind of figure out how the event's going to unfold, determine any possibilities, determine what could go wrong. I know that's always kind of challenging to figure out what's going to go wrong, but you can talk to other event organizers and ask them what their biggest challenges were. Basically, any reputable event organizer is more than willing to share their experiences and what kind of things that they've gone through. You want to just kind of map everything out. I mean, not that anything's going to go wrong, but you want to map everything out, what could go wrong. You know, if you're doing a big event, you want to kind of make sure that you have everything in place from, how the line is going to go, how, where your vendors are going to set up, how many vendors are you going to have? The other thing too is I used to do nothing to do with paranormal, but I used to do other events when I was out in Vegas, and you kind of want to determine, how many of a type of a vendor do you want? For example, let's say you only have, 100 vendor spots. You don't want 50 of them with people who only sell sage or herbs, or you don't want 90% of them doing crystals. You kind of want to change it up, how many, because like when I used to do events, they would only allow, 10% to be jewelry, 10% to be, home goods and stuff like that. So you kind of want to change things up and know how many of each type of vendor you're going to have. So when you do the vendor application, make sure you ask, hey, what type of products do you sell? And the best thing to do is most vendors, unless it's their first event, will have a photo of them at their booth. Ask them to send a photo, of what their booth looks like, so you can kind of see what products they sell. And that ensures you have a variety, because the people who come to the event, you want to make sure that they're not, bombarded, even though they might have different types of crystals or different types of sage, but people want a variety. At a paranormal convention, you want to have, authors, people who sell paranormal gadgets, people who, sell crystals, sell candles. You kind of want to change it up and do different things. So make sure that you offer enough variety for your guests, because the people who come as paid attendees, they might not come back next year if you host it, if there wasn't enough variety. And that's the biggest complaint that I hear from a lot of people who attend different events and whatnot. So, and there's many benefits to taking the time to plan out the event and how it's going to unfold. Where everyone and everything should be, how traffic's going to flow. You're prepared for any, issues that might come up. You help reduce any additional cost, which could arise from, damage because you were prepared for something ahead of time, or cleanup. Just not just for the people who come to the event, but loyalty in the aspect of your vendors, your guest speakers, and also the people who work for you or volunteer for the event. And then it also helps reduce any liabilities you may face. Okay. Okay. And, oh, well, thank you for sharing, Lee. Hopefully, yeah, I really do hope to get out there and get information. And I really need to figure out where Eldora is. I'm definitely going to have to do that. That sounds like it's going to be an interesting place. So, but yeah, with everything said, I don't know if anybody watching right now or anybody later who watches the replay is planning an event. So this information may not be of interest to you guys, but it's one of those things where you just, want to have fun. So, and that goes to, I'm going to flip the tables real quick as someone going to an event. I've been a guest to several events as where I've just walked through, and you want to interact. You want to ask questions when you go and talk to people. Stop at every booth. Take the time. You've paid for the ticket to get in there. Take your time. Go to as many of the lectures as you can. Even if it's a topic that you might not be fully interested in, go. You never know what you're going to learn. It's always fun. And, take advantage of just everything you have there. Even if you can't afford the higher end ticket, just get the ticket to get you in the door, because it's a perfect opportunity to network. It's the perfect opportunity to talk to people. And it's a great way to get your questions answered. So, going to 3 events this year. Yes. I'm actually starting to plan mine now that I'm released from the doctor to get out to the different events. So hopefully it's going to be a busy year for me this year. But yeah, definitely. Do you know which ones you're, I'm assuming you know which ones you're already attending, but would be interested to hear which ones you're planning on going to. Canaveral. Yes. Okay. Canaveral National. Okay. I know where that's at. Perfect. Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much for the information. So basically, you guys, if you have any questions, again, I'm going to repeat myself here. Don't hesitate to ask. I'm always here to help you guys. And kind of wanted to, I still have some time before we go to our first break. So I wanted to take a few minutes. I completely went off my typical morning topic, but real quick, for those of you who are new to the show, I do appreciate everyone joining in and having a blast. I have been researching the paranormal for more than 30 years. I think this year we're looking at 33, 34 years that I've been researching the paranormal. I know I'm aging myself real quick right now. And, but yeah, definitely looking forward to more. And that brings me back to another topic that I had for another show, but it's never too late. It's never too late for you guys to do anything in your life. Put paranormal aside. I mean, I don't really want to admit it right now because it's kind of a sore spot, but later this month I turned 50. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that things really started happening for me. So, just because you're not a teenager, not because you're not in your 20s, doesn't mean you can't do anything. Go set your dreams, go for your, goals, and just get out there and do it. It really doesn't matter age. I always used to say age is just a number, but it kind of changes when you get a little bit older. So just put your mind to it, do what you want to do. I know several other authors that I talk to regularly. One author, she didn't publish her first book until she was almost 60 because it was kind of one of her retirement things. Youngling, thanks, Lee. So it's just, and that's one thing that I talk about in, I do life coaching, as well as shamanic life coaching. And that's the one thing that I talk about is just kind of move forward. Do you. And it doesn't matter if your timeline is different than someone else's. It doesn't matter if someone moved faster than you did or you're moving faster than someone else. Just kind of do you and stick with what you're doing. Great Lakes Paranormal, Bigfoot Paranormal. Okay, yep, those sound familiar. There's actually a Bigfoot convention here in Florida that I was thinking on trying to go to. Just kind of all the guests that they had there look very interesting. and just kind of very interesting. And real quick, I have notification that Tim has arrived. So let me finish up a few things real quick. Then we'll take a quick commercial break and I'll bring Tim on. But don't forget, Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns and Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley are now available. You can either purchase them on Amazon or you can go to Arcadia Publishing. If you live out in Vegas or Southern Nevada, they're available at Walgreens, Target, Walmart, a couple museums. I know the Mob Museum has them, Clark County Museum, and a few other select stores and museums in the area do carry those books as well. And later this year, Haunted Florida Lighthouses will be released. Absolutely had a blast writing that one. Took a little bit longer than expected, but that one is coming out later this year. That's off to the publisher and out of my hands. And then the new book I'm working on right now is Haunted Florida Ghost Towns, which hopefully will also be out later this year. As a quick reminder, tomorrow night I have Ghost Education 101. We are actually doing a fun panel discussion on the concept of para-unity and team conduct. I will be joined by my co-host Philip Wyatt. Christopher George from Anubis Paranormal Research and will be there. David Taylor from Our Haunted Lives will be joining me. Larry Lawson, my friend that I had mentioned earlier, he will be joining. And then Steve Dills from Transcendent Paranormal will also be joining. And Steve is a great guy. He used to actually be one of our educators on Ghost Education 101 and then had to take some time off from us to do some other things that he was working on, but he is always happy to come back, and he is amazing when he comes back to our show. Break. Make sure that you have all your questions ready for when Tim comes on. So get ready for that. But before we go, don't forget to check out my new sponsor, Omni Interactions, where you can work from home, full-time or part-time. Schedule in 30-minute or 1-hour blocks. Finally, a company that allows you to get your life back. You can get more information about them at my website, heatherleighphd.com. Go to the Exploring the Paranormal show page, or you can go to getgig.life/paranormal for more information, and just make sure you tell them that Dr. Heather Leigh sent you. Okay, well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we return, I will be joined with Tim. See you guys in a moment.
Looking for a holistic solution? Look no further than LimestreetWellness.com. Lime Street Wellness is a full-service Reiki therapy center offering in-person and distant Reiki sessions. Additionally, Lime Street Wellness is committed to helping clients co-create healthier outcomes with hypnosis, QHHT, and intuitive advice. Lime Street Wellness is committed to helping all that are seeking to co-create better health, peace of mind, and greater freedom. Reiki Master Kevin Mackey uses energy medicine, hypnosis, mindfulness, and intuitive guidance to assist in uncovering, understanding, and removing any blocks or energy cords or mental mindsets that may be intruding and causing needless suffering. Visit Lime Street Wellness today at LimestreetWellness.com. That's LimestreetWellness.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to have you guys here today, just as I'm excited to have my guest. I have Tim, who will be coming on, and he is going to be talking about many different things about his experiences, his former investigations, and, oh, sorry, my mouse just died and I can't scroll down, so hold on a second. His first book was published in October of 2016 called his second book. Oh, it scrolled down too fast. Sorry about that, Tim. Called The Endless Road. But we will be talking about all of his different things. He also started a foundation called Potographs for Pooches, which is an amazing, amazing event. You guys are going to have to make sure to check that out and learn more about that. So rather than my butchering his bio any more than I already have, let's welcome Tim to the show.
Good morning.
Hello, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It worked out great. I got fired a couple of weeks ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this show.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to hear you got fired, but glad you're here.
Yeah, it'll all work out. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is my first morning interview. So I'm hoping I bring enough energy to keep people awake.
That's fine. I some mornings I have trouble doing the show too, but I like the time slot because then I can go on with the rest of my day when I'm done.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for being here, but tell everybody a little bit more about yourself and what got you interested in the paranormal.
What got me interested in the paranormal was buying this house that I'm in. I'm still living in. Bought this house in 2006. And 31 years old at the time, and was never really into the paranormal. It wasn't something that we ever talked about as a family growing up. And moved in here, and within days I had, footsteps upstairs from bedroom to bedroom, bangs on the wall, voices. Also keep in mind, I was going through a really tough period personally at that time. And honestly, I'm not quite sure instantly if I went right to paranormal. I think my first inclination was that I was going crazy. And it was just, I happened to stumble across Ghost Hunters, the television show. I was watching wrestling one night on the Sci-Fi Network, and they had a commercial for Ghost Hunters. And I mean, that's how out of touch and naive I was. I didn't know this stuff existed. So all of a sudden, this whole new world was open to me. And I tried to contact some teams in my area just to get it explained, because I had a 30-year mortgage and didn't want to move. So I guess to make a long story much shorter, none of those people ever got back to me. So that started my journey into educating myself on what I was dealing with, not because I wanted to start a team, but because, like I said, I had a 30-year mortgage and really was just about survival at that point. I didn't know what was happening in my home. And a lot of my family at that time thought it was my dad and that he was there to kind of watch over me. Because, like I said, I was going through a pretty rough period personally, and I had slipped into a pretty deep depression and put paranormal activity on top of that. It was a perfect storm. There was a good period in my life there where life wasn't all that great. But after about a year of educating myself and better understanding it, I kind of looked at a friend at work and I said, there's probably other people out there that are looking for help that aren't getting their emails returned either. And that's how Fox Cities Paranormal Team started. It was off the cuff, and let's help people, let's help families. And we've been doing that since January 2008. So it's become my life. The paranormal field has given me far more than I could ever give it in return. So I kind of pride myself on being, somebody people can look at in the field and go, hey, he's not such a bad guy.
Only 5% of our patterns of behavior are driven by our conscious mind. 95% of our patterns of behavior are driven by what we hold in our unconscious mind. Root cause therapy is a holistic healing modality using advanced testing methods to help you identify and shift the patterns and beliefs holding you back from achieving goals, changing unhelpful patterns, or stepping into the relationships you truly deserve. Using no drugs, no chemicals, root cause therapy will help make your unconscious thoughts and beliefs conscious in order to achieve lasting change in a focused amount of time. Deidre Sanford is a certified root cause therapy practitioner, energy worker, and psychic medium who knows her clients truly deserve to heal their deepest wounds in a safe container. By combining her skills in your root cause therapy program, Deidre will work with you to bring what's hidden deep in your mind to the forefront and to create lasting change. Root cause therapy is proven helpful in overcoming anxiety, emotional eating or spending habits, low self-esteem, and many other unhelpful patterns based in your past experiences and incomplete emotional cycles. Contact Deidre today to learn how root cause therapy may assist you in letting go of that which is holding you back from achieving the life and relationships you truly deserve. Contact Deidre by calling 630-506-8381. That's 630-506-8381, or schedule your consultation at DeidreLSanford.com.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. It's weird. It's sunny out right now, but there was a loud, like a rumble. And then all of a sudden my internet completely went out.
I was in the middle of a really long answer, and then I noticed that you weren't moving, and I thought, oh no. So I don't know how much of that anybody heard.
Hopefully everyone else heard it, but I missed some of it.
All right.
But Lee actually asked a question. I was thinking the same thing too while you were talking about your story about the noises and you going through depression at the time. Do you think that maybe your emotional status at the time might have contributed?
Normally I would agree with that, but it ended up being my father after all. And I didn't get confirmation on that until, trying to do math in my head, and it's early. I didn't get confirmation of that until 2012. So that was a good 6 years, 5.5 years after I had moved into the house. So, but yeah, I had an inkling that it was him. And at one point, had even told him I was going to be okay, and that, it was okay. He could go now. Which biggest lie I ever told my dad, but I'm sure we'll get into that later in the show. But yeah, I mean, it just, it was something that I forced into and educated myself. And then, just, hey, maybe there's other people out there that need help too. So that's how Fox Cities Paranormal got started. And here we are 15 years later, 300 plus residential investigations. And I'm hanging out and I'm friends with those people I first saw on Ghost Hunters, which is a little weird. I did an event with Dustin Perry last year, and I was driving him to the airport after the event, and he started talking about the St. Augustine Lighthouse episode. Yeah. And that was the episode that hooked me. And it dawned on me. I just looked at him because Dustin's one of my best friends now. Like legitimately just a great guy. And I looked at him and I'm like, this is weird, because in 2006 or 2007, I watched that episode and that's what hooked me. And here I am, and you're one of my best friends now. I never would have thought that could happen. But, like I said, I don't know if you heard it, but, the paranormal field's given me a lot more than I could ever give it in return. So I'm happy to be that guy that, especially this past week, I don't know what's going on. I think the paranormal field's on crack, but but I'd like to be the guy that people can point to and go, hey, that guy's not such a bad person. And he doesn't cause drama, and he doesn't make it all about him. So I got those three things going for me. But I just think people need to be more grateful and more thankful for what they have. And stop trying to push each other out of the way to be on TV, because it's not all it's cracked up to be anyway.
No. And it's funny. I always joke. I try to avoid drama as much as I can, but for some reason, drama seems to follow me. It's like I try to distance myself as much as I can. And it's like I turn the corner and it's like, boom, right there again. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And it's, it's sad because the field does mean a great deal to me. That's not me blowing smoke up anybody's butt. It's, I mean, I've gotten so many opportunities from this field. I've gotten to travel to places I never would have been able to travel to before, and experience things that I would have been able to experience. So it's, I am very grateful for what I've been able to do. And, we're not done yet, but we'll see what the next 15 years has in store for me.
Exactly. And that's like what I was talking about earlier is, don't put a timeline on anything. Things will happen when they happen, go for your goals, and that's the one thing, like you had said, trying to get on TV. I always tell people if it's going to happen, do you, and they'll come to you.
I say something similar. It's if you do the work, the right people will notice.
Right. Yep.
It's not about puffing out your chest and, beating your chest and telling everybody how great you are. Right. I did one episode of Paranormal Witness back in 2013. So I was relevant 10 years ago. And it changed the way people looked at me. All of a sudden there were people saying, oh, you're legitimate, but I thought I was legitimate before that. Being on TV doesn't make you legitimate. I mean, I'm not here to talk badly about anybody, and I won't. But there's folks that are on TV that don't know half of what some of us know in the paranormal field. So it's being on TV doesn't make you an expert. Nobody's an expert. There's people with a lot more experience, and I think we should lean on those folks. But as I get older, I think I'm becoming one of those folks, which is scary. I look at myself and I got all this gray in the beard, and that wasn't there 15 years ago. So things have changed.
This field can do that to you too.
You're telling me, yeah.
And the one reason why I was really interested in getting you on the show is your events that you host, the Potographs for Pooches. I think that is the absolute cutest event ever.
Right there.
Can you share a little bit more about what the event is?
To share what the event is, I kind of got to go into why the event is, which is, get your Kleenex. But when I moved into the house in 2006, I mentioned that I was going through a lot of things personally. I'll give you the short version. I had bought that home for myself, my fiance, and her son. And shortly after signing for the house, had found out that not only was my friend sleeping with her, he had gotten her pregnant. So things kind of crumbled for me personally. And when I moved into the home, I'd always wanted a dog. Growing up, I always had dogs. And I had always, my early adult life, I really didn't have anything together. I was just kind of going through life at that point, and was from apartment to duplex to condo, and none of those places allowed dogs. So when I bought the home, I had my mind made up that I wanted to get a dog. So I looked online and I found a pit lab mix. And at the time, his name was Striker. And the story on Striker was that they had gone into the home, the shelter had, and rescued him from the home because they had word that he was getting beaten badly. And the picture they had of him online was so pathetic. It was this little puppy, 6 months old, curled up in this guy's arms. And the picture just spoke to me. And I made an effort to reach them and try to go and visit. And the shelter, sorry, I got caught reading comments. The shelter tried to talk me out of it because the person that had beaten him was a man. And he was afraid of men, was what they told me. So I famously told them I'm no normal man, and they eventually let me come visit him, and they put me in a room, and they opened up a door, and it was a room full of kennels, a long hallway full of kennels. And I remember them letting him out, and he went the wrong way. And if you ever got to meet Murray, that was his thing. He never did anything right the first time. But as soon as they turned him around, this little puppy that, wasn't supposed to want anything to do with me came running to me and jumped into my arms. And that was the start of a beautiful story. I went outside and I played with him for about an hour. And when I left, of course, I couldn't take him with me at the time, but he was still outside. And I just remember the look, and he was up against the fence looking at me like, what did I do wrong? Like, why aren't you taking me? And it was like a 45-minute drive home. I cried the entire way. Eventually they called me and told me I could come get him. Went back to get him, and the entire ride home, he was just looking out each window, and he was so fascinated by everything. And of course I cried the entire way because that's my thing. But this time it was because I was so happy. And then I got home and got him into the house, and he was noticing everything that I was hearing. And for the first time in a few months, I wasn't feeling crazy anymore. Another living being was seeing the things that I was hearing and seeing. And he and I were best buddies from the beginning. But early 2007 really cemented it. The depression had gotten the best of me one night, and I sat in my bathroom and I went through each family member and each friend one by one and came up with a reason why it would be okay if I wasn't here. And, the intention was to not be here anymore. As I was about to do the unthinkable, I looked down because I felt something on my arm, and it was Murray, and he had rested his head on my left arm, and I just crumpled to the floor. And I remember saying, what happens to him if I'm gone? Mm-hmm. It was a classic case of I saved him and he saved me. From that moment on, he and I were father and son, and there was no dog and owner anymore. He was what I lived for. Mm-hmm. Every day I would thank him. Every day that I get after that day is because he walked into that room, because I really firmly believe I wouldn't be here if he hadn't. So everything that we've been able to accomplish and everything I've gotten to experience is all because of that little puppy walking into that room that night. I mentioned paranormal witness earlier. Like middle of 2012, mm-hmm. I started to get more attention in the paranormal field because I had filmed that. It didn't, I don't think it actually aired until September of 2013. So it was a while, but they had contacted us and wanted to put a case that we had on air, and I wasn't really prepared for the kind of attention that I was going to get from that. And as soon as it aired, it was like my name flashed up on the screen, and all of a sudden I had all of these new friends on social media. And with that came a lot of opportunities to speak at events. Mm-hmm. And I decided to start sharing my story because I think it's pretty unique. And I didn't really understand at the time how much people would connect with it. I was pretty naive to the fact that there were other people out there too that were suffering, and they needed somebody to say it's okay to talk about it. Mm-hmm. I wasn't prepared for that, but you get this table at every event, and they want you to, sell what you have. And I didn't have anything. And at the time I was married, and I told my ex-wife, I was like, what if we took pictures of Murray and I, and he potographed them. That's where the potograph stamp comes from. I actually still have the stamp. It's always here. And then I'll personalize them, and whatever money we raise, we'll give to a shelter in that area. And that was the beginning of potographs. It was let's do something to create a legacy for Murray, because I wanted people to understand, how special he was to me, and in turn has become very special to everybody within the paranormal field. And that first event we raised $10. And it was a little bit humbling, but eventually it would start to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be events where we would raise $150, $200. And then I did a little Traverse Bay Parafest. John Cassidy runs that event in Petoskey, Michigan. It's actually his birthday today. So happy birthday, John. And he really got behind it and started pushing it and advertising photographs for pooches. And we raised a lot of money that weekend. A lot of money for us at the time. And John had mentioned to me, what if we did, exclusive events, and we raised money with ticket sales and investigation sales, and everything went to the shelter. Mm-hmm. I remember telling John, I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to come and see you and I talk, John. And the first event we did, we raised $741. And now that doesn't seem like a whole lot. But at the time I was over the moon. Mm-hmm. And eventually the events grew in popularity and in size and in stress. And last year we went over $100,000 total raised for shelters around the country. And then 9 days ago we raised $11,000 for a shelter in Michigan. So we continue to push Murray's legacy. We continue to talk about him and what he did for me and honestly countless other animals around the country, and then people too, because those folks that adopt those animals bring you healing. They really, and I think we've helped a lot of people through with this story. I always say that I'm the human that gets to tell Murray's story. Unfortunately, Murray passed away in 2019. It's been 3.5 years now, and it's still tough. Mm-hmm. It's still tough. I miss my boy. He was my everything, and I remember taking him into the vet. He had a stroke and then went into a seizure, and it would all happen so quick. And I remember taking him into the vet, and they got him calm, and I was standing with him. And I just leaned over and I said, "You got to let me know that you're okay. And then we're coming to get you." And that sounds just like it's supposed to sound. I was willing to go because I didn't want him to be alone. And I couldn't bear the thought of not having him. Mm-hmm. And that next morning, I had 5 messages from mediums. And every message started with the same sentence: Murray needs his dad to know he's okay. And 3.5 years later, I still can't get through that without crying. But
right,
it was a sign I needed, though, and because of that, I'm still here. Because of that, I'm still pushing forward. Because of that, Potographs is the success that it has become, and we still do everything for him. So everything I'm able to do in life, it's all because of Murray. And honestly, I get to tell his story probably once or twice a day to people that meet me and people that contact me on Facebook. And it's my favorite subject. I'll talk about my boy until I'm blue in the face, but I just want people to know how very special he was. And if you look over, I can never get this right. If you look over my left shoulder, those are some of the original photos. Photographs for pooches. You can't see them very well, but they're there. And every room in my house has a photo of him. I never want to be too far away from him.
Yeah, and you're right. I needed Kleenex for that one. I'm like doing everything I can to hold the tears back. But it's absolutely amazing how our animals can do that for us, and it's it's heartbreaking to hear, when there's when they're, I find it, I'm trying to figure out the words, right? I find it more, I have trouble watching TV shows where animals get hurt. Humans can get killed all they want, but if you hurt the animal.
I'm not the most smooth person in the world. And years ago, I took a woman on a first date to see Marley and Me, which was a horrible idea. Because spoiler alert, the dog dies at the end. And he looked just like Murray, the dog in the movie. So by the end of the movie, I'm wiping tears and I'm ugly crying, and never got a second date out of that one. So
That's just because she didn't want a sensitive guy.
Yeah. Well, there's sensitive, and then there's, oh my God, I'm going to have to carry this man. So yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, when you guys host an event, I need to get to one of them because that just sounds like a fun event.
We hosted an event in Tampa. I want to say in 2017.
Okay.
And it just did not go over well. There are areas that support it very well, and then there are areas that just don't seem to care, and that's fine. We have an event coming up in Iowa the first weekend in May, and I haven't put out a poster yet for it because we can't get a shelter to take the money. That's part of the problem with what we do is it's a paranormal event. And a lot of shelters shy away from that. They don't want to be associated because they're worried they're going to alienate the people that, give them the real money. So that's a little bit frustrating. Used to really bother me. But at this point we just look at it and go, okay, we'll go to the next one. So it's, we'll eventually find one, but yeah, we're coming to Iowa. I just don't have anything prepared to throw at you today, but I would love to be able to say, hey, this is the shelter we're raising money for, but we haven't found one yet.
Yeah, I'd say look into like a pit bull rescue or any type of animal rescue versus a shelter.
Well, we try to find something in that area, in that city, and we've got two options in that area, and we've exhausted the one, and then the other is a humane society, so we're contacting them next. But it really comes down to I just need to have a good feeling from the people we're raising money for. I want to raise money for good people.
Right.
We've raised money for pit bull rescues because Murray was half pit, and I love being able to do that, and I love it when they bring the pit bulls to the events because as much as people want to talk badly about them, they're just big babies. That's how they are, and loving on them is one of my favorite things. But my two current dogs now both have some pit bull in them, and they're sweethearts. They really are. So I wouldn't trade those girls for anything. But it's we'll get it figured out. We'll get a shelter in place, and if we don't, we'll just raise money for the shelter that's closest to me, and then Iowa can answer. The rescues there can answer why they didn't want our money, but
see why they missed out.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, and Florida, because we lived in Vegas for 7 years and moved back to Florida about 1.5 years ago, and Florida's hit or miss with their paranormal events. It's interesting.
I did an event in Ocala. I can't remember the location, but I was fairly new, and I was on a panel with John Zaffis and Scott Tepperman. He's from that area. Brian Cano was there. Andrea Perrin, a bunch of other people. It's been years, but I really had a good time there. And even that event, you could tell it was difficult to get people there, and they had a heck of a lineup. And me, I remember I remember sitting on the panel and just looking down each side of the table and going, "Why am I sitting here?" But yeah, it seems like it's hit and miss. But I wouldn't mind coming to Florida in like January or February and breaking up this Wisconsin crap. Because I'll be honest with you, we got another 5 inches of snow the other night, and what is it, May 14th or March 14th? Yeah. And I'm ready for the snow to be gone. And honestly, at this point in my life, I'm not even concerned if I ever see snow again.
Yeah, I know. We've been in the 80s, mid 80s to low 90s the past couple weeks, and today's our first cold front, and it's in the 60s.
This is why nobody likes you, Florida.
And it's only going to be for 2 days, and then we go back up to the 80s.
Oh, you poor thing.
I know.
I feel for you. I think we might hit 40 next week. So that's.
I grew up in Northern Illinois. I don't miss it at all.
Yeah, I've often told my mom she's the reason I'm here. I'm an only child. and I feel an obligation to stay close to mom. But I keep telling her, I will. I'll move south if you both do.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't look like it's in the plan. Leigh is saying that she's from Horicon. Horicon's about an hour south of me. I'm in Oshkosh, so I'm not that far from you. But yeah, it's been a winter. We had a few winters there where we didn't have much snow at all, and then this year they were like, "Hey, here, have it all." and I'm kind of
yeah, no, and it's tough with the parents. I mean, I think I was early 20s when I came down to do an internship with Disney, and decided I was going to stay. And then my parents came to visit me for Christmas, and they went back home and put their house up for sale.
Maybe that's what I got to do. I got to make the first move.
Yeah, and then they were actually so mad at me when we moved to Vegas. But now they're happy that we're back. We came back mostly for them. So
all these Wisconsin people in here, how'd that happen?
Yeah, no, I grew up in Woodstock, Illinois, and we spent a lot of time in Wisconsin.
I mean, 10 months out of the year, I love Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even mind November and December, because if I have snow at Christmas, then great, but you get to January and February and it's still lingering, then I'm done with it. But
or March.
Yeah. It's overstaying its welcome. But I mean, when we get to April and May, I mean, it is beautiful here.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I always tell people is that we don't have things here that want to eat you. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't have bugs as big as our head. We don't have spiders the size of our torsos. So there's no crocodiles waiting outside for me or gators. So I'm good. If I got to put up with cold for a little bit, we're fine. But
or the 8 months of hurricane season.
Yeah. Is my house going to be here next year? That would just drive me nuts.
Yeah, we got hit by 2 of them this year where we're located. One came from the East Coast and one came from the West Coast.
No thanks. I have a lot of friends in Florida, so like I have anxiety when it comes to hurricanes anyway because of my friends being there. I can't imagine how bad it would be if I lived there. Yeah, and you got some folks that live in Florida that are like, "Oh, this is normal, no big deal. I'm not moving," and I'm just sitting here in Wisconsin watching the Weather Channel. I'm like, "You're an idiot. What are you doing?"
I'll take a hurricane over a snow because we get warnings.
Yeah. Well, the snow's not gonna blow my house over most times.
Yeah.
So, there are no sharks in Lake Winnebago. Stop spreading lies.
Yeah, and the worst part is, I know, what was it, 2004 when we got hit by Charlie, Jean, and Francis. I was living over on the East Coast in my parents' house, and they're less than a mile from the ocean, so they had to evacuate all 3 times. And we packed up, and my son was only like 6 months old. And we, of course, we went to Disney for the hurricanes. And the biggest thing is wondering if your house is going to still be there when you return home.
And everybody says, hey, you can replace materials and you can replace a home. But like, there's a lot of memories that would just be gone. And for me, that I suffer from, I mentioned the depression, that started in 2006. It's still there. I mean, it never goes away. There are days when I wake up and my body and my brain just says, "Hey, Tim, you suck at life." And then you got to battle through. But I recognize the signs now, so I'm a little bit more prepared for it. Honestly, I just want to recognize the people that are here listening live, because this is my first morning interview, and I'm happy that folks are listening.
I was going to say, this is the busiest morning I've had.
So I don't know how to pronounce. Is it Salone?
Yes, Salone.
So I just want to thank Salone and Leigh for listening, and then the Wisconsin Files is Jenny, a friend of mine. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope I'm keeping you awake. But it's we've done events in Florida, getting back to what we were talking about. And they just they have been. You're right, they're hit and miss. And I would love to be able to do an event down there. It's just really difficult when you don't have any sort of following in that area to get people to get behind it, because then you really have to increase your budget. to bring in bigger names, and then hope that those bigger names haven't been in Florida in
Right.
the last few months, because everybody's making the circuit now and see people everywhere. So it's difficult, but I enjoy every opportunity that we get, and I'm just rambling now, so I'm just gonna turn it back to you.
I was gonna say, well, welcome to the show. It's like everyone's like, what's the topic? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
This show, I just wake up and I do it, whatever comes to mind, whatever, and last week my guest had to cancel last minute because there was a firefighter had died in her community and they were laying him to rest, so she was going to that. And I spent 2 hours just winging it. And then actually probably about an hour, because halfway through I lost my voice.
Oh,
and we had to end early.
I'll try to hold up my half of the show here then for you.
But yeah, so I mean, I try not to go into it too much of a plan, because anytime I've done that with this show, we get so sidetracked. And then I have all these notes that I prepared.
I did a show for 10 years back when there wasn't video. And yeah, the preparation that goes into it, like you have to know something about the people you're interviewing. And then you get the folks that'll give you 1-word answers. That's horrible. Because then you look at your list of notes and you're like, well, I don't have anything else. And you've answered everything with yes or no.
Right.
I had to give up doing radio because it wasn't fun for me anymore. And also everything was turning over to video, and I wouldn't be able to roll my eyes at my guests anymore.
It's hard. It's hard to hold that back.
Yeah. There were some guests where I was like, what was I thinking? But the majority of the people I had on the show were fantastic. And it was a great learning opportunity for me, honestly. You get to, you get folks on the show that you wouldn't dare call up and talk to on the phone for an hour. So I used that as an opportunity to talk to people that I wanted to learn from.
Yeah. I know. I've been between hosting this show. I started in October, and then I've been hosting Ghost Education 101 with my co-host since COVID started. And that show, we actually prepare it because we do presentations to teach, basically get people the right information, because there was so much misinformation out there. And, we might not even be right, but we're trying to get rid of the misinformation that's out there.
Yeah, you're closer to right than some people. I've said this a lot of times. There's no right way to do an investigation. I don't tell people how to do, but there are wrong ways. And I think we all know the wrong ways. So as long as you're teaching people to, hey, don't. My biggest thing, and I don't want to like swear on your show, but my biggest thing is just don't be an a-hole. And that's the number one rule for me. Like in dealing with spirits and dealing with clients, just try to have some compassion, try to have some empathy. And it's done pretty well for me so far. But yeah, for me, it comes down to just try to be a good person. And for some people, that's very difficult. I don't understand that.
Yeah. And for some people, it's difficult to be a good person to humans and spirits.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, it took me a couple years before I honestly started to realize that we could help spirits too. I was so green. I was such a noob that, when I first started doing residential investigations, it was all about the client, and it was all about, things I'd seen on TV, things I'd seen in documentaries, things I had read in books. It was very important to me to have evidence, and I didn't trust my own self. If I had a personal experience, but I didn't have anything to document it or to give it validation, then I just kind of tossed it aside. But it takes a long time for you to be able to trust yourself. And, because I had this conversation with somebody at an event. I just looked at him. I'm like, what if none of this exists and we're all just mentally ill? Like, what if we're all crazy? But what if my life's work the last 15 years is nothing? And I don't think it is.
Right.
But I mean, it's a horrible feeling to like look at it and go, what if this is the way of like getting us in a group and saying, okay, those are the people.
Yeah, we're the ones that they round up when it comes time.
Yeah. Like, let's send them to Madagascar. But it's I don't know. I think about this stuff, I think, more than I probably should. It just really it can cause great conversations and fantastic back and forths. And I sometimes I sit here at night and I just think, like, what is after this world? People that don't do what we do, they've asked me, they're like, well, our ghost's real, our spirit's real. I'm like, I will tell you this, I know there's something after we're done here. I don't think we're meant to know what it is. And I'll get into that if you want me to, but I don't think we're meant to know, because I think if we knew that the next place was paradise, that the next place was happiness, why would anybody stay here? I have to believe that there's something better. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. I've been doing this for 15 years. I have no clue what the next level is, the next step is, but I've heard and seen enough to know that there has to be something.
Right.
And if there isn't, my God, is that going to be a disappointment? I just, wow, what a waste. But yeah, so I try to inject humor. Sometimes I'm not funny, but really, it comes down to that for me. It's like, I know there's something, the work that we've done and the things I've experienced. I believe in my heart there's something, but I can't tell anybody what it is.
Yeah. And because of all of that, that's why, I mean, people have heard me talk before. My ultimate goal in this field, and I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, is I want to see it be thought of as a real science field, kind of where we're taken seriously, not the, oh my God, they're just ghost hunters,
I think there would have to be a lot of work done.
Yes.
In the field.
But someone's got to lay the groundwork though. Yeah. And, we got to stop, all the drama, like you mentioned earlier. That's not gonna move this field forward.
But this field is, and now I'm being that old man, get off my lawn. But this field, honestly, is the first one I've ever been in where if you try to show leadership and you try to help people, I guess, in learning about what they're doing, there's so much pushback and there's so much backlash. Like, if you try to show leadership in this field, you're immediately ostracized. And
oh my goodness, you're speaking right to me.
and it's so frustrating, because it's like, I'm not like I said it earlier, there's no right way to do an investigation. I believe there are wrong ways. So I'm not going to tell you how to pattern your investigation and how to do things and what equipment to use, and just use compassion and empathy. That and if you can't do those two simple things, then I'm really not going to waste my time trying to help you. But yeah, it gets frustrating for me, because there's a lot of people that don't get those basic principles, and if you do step out and try to become a voice for the field, then immediately you got like 200 people that are pushing you backwards, and you don't know what you're talking about. Stop telling me what to do, Dad. Yeah. So it's that part of it's frustrating. I agree that it would be great if we had some sort of standardization. I'm just, like I said, I'm the old guy, get off my lawn at this point. I just don't believe it'll happen. But generally those folks that do things, quote unquote, the wrong way, they don't last very long anyway.
Yep.
So that's one good thing about that. But yeah, it gets frustrating. I'm probably the only paranormal investigator that hates Halloween. I cannot stand that holiday, and it has nothing to do with what Halloween is. It has nothing to do with that. it has everything to do with everybody contacting me from October 1st to October 31st, wanting to go on an investigation because this is something that they've always wanted to do. And then when I tell them we do mostly residential investigations and I can't for confidentiality reasons, well, then they hit me with, all these words that I'm not going to repeat on your show because I don't want to get demonetized. So, yeah, I mean, that's the part that's frustrating for me. They just assume that we're all running around in graveyards and cemeteries, and the majority of us aren't. I used to do a lot of local lectures and stuff in the area during October because my thought was, there's going to be somebody in that audience that may need help that didn't know about us before tonight. And I did that for 2 or 3 years and realized that they just wanted ghost stories. And I'm not really a ghost story guy. So I'll let somebody else do that.
Yep. Yeah, you got to figure out what works for you. But yeah, they all want the stories. They want to see pieces of evidence. And it's weird. But real quick, getting back to the speaking out in this field and speaking up, I was actually, that's why I started my own team. It's my husband and my son, and I train them right. I always joke to say that I know I train them right. But I was pushed out of 2 teams because I was speaking up on ideas on what the team should be doing.
We once in a while we'll put an email out or something on Facebook that we're accepting new investigators. And for me, experience means nothing. Mm-hmm. I've always told people I can teach you what you need to know about paranormal investigation. Mm-hmm. I can't teach you to be a good person. So if you don't have compassion, if you don't have empathy, then I really can't do anything with you. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say the 9 people we have on Fox Cities Paranormal Team, I love them dearly. And they're very, very good people. They give up their weekends for people that they don't know to help them. And then, then you don't see the work that goes in, the week after with all the review and the research and stuff before. So, I get a lot of the credit. Todd gets a lot of the credit. Todd Arnold runs the team with me. Mm-hmm. The 2 of us get a lot of the credit, but, we wouldn't get a lot of the opportunities that we have without the work of those other folks. So I always like to give them some credit too, because, without them, it'd just be me and Todd walking around and doing all this work on our own. And Todd famously always says when we have a big group on an investigation and we don't have to carry anything, Todd looks at me and goes, "Oh, it's good to have our lackeys back." But he's always saying it tongue in cheek. Oh
yeah, and I always tell people you got to have fun. Yeah, you not fun in the sense of goofing off and causing risk to anybody during the investigation, but you gotta have some fun. Yeah,
you have to enjoy the people you're with too. Otherwise, it just becomes work. Nobody likes work.
Yeah. And you have to trust them too, because you're going to be sitting in the dark with them.
Yeah. I've said it so many times that I've spent 15 plus years walking around in dark buildings with Todd. He's like a brother to me now, and we've spent so much time on this, and then we're great friends outside of it. Mm-hmm. Without getting all emotional, I couldn't have asked for a better partner in the paranormal field. And I get asked a lot on shows like this, what's your dream investigation? Who would you like to investigate with? I already got it. Mm-hmm. I don't want anybody but Todd, because I know exactly where he's going to be. I know what he's going to do. And I know that if stuff goes down, he's got my back. And that's a big part of being on a team too. It's important to me to have a family feel with the team. Mm-hmm. You have to know that person sitting with you in the dark cares enough about you to get you out of there if something happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, no, and that's the one thing I miss about living in Vegas is there was one investigator out there, and him and I would work together, and it was one of those things. I don't know if we connected on a higher level or something, but we knew where each person was at all times, even if we were in different rooms, and we could it was one of the best investigation experiences I've ever had, and it's a shame that we live so far apart from each other.
Yeah, and it's great when you can find that connection. Mm-hmm. And just have that comfortability. And I'm lucky enough that I have it. And we've had it for 15 years now. So
Yeah.
at some point we won't be carrying anything, and we'll be going in with our walkers and our bald heads and our gray beards. And
you'll have Velcro straps with your equipment and your cameras on your walkers as you go.
I'll have Velcro straps on my shoes at that point. But yeah, it's like I said, this field has given me a lot more than I could ever give it in return. And I can't imagine at this point not doing this. I can't imagine getting an email from a family and saying, no, not my problem. Because I've made it my problem for 15 years and it's become kind of my life. So, I've told Todd before that if I ever lose the passion to do residential investigations, I think we're done. Because the bigger investigations in the well-known places, I mean, I enjoy those from time to time, but the reward for me is helping a family.
Yeah, no, it's I miss residential investigations. I had to take some time off from them because my last one, I had there was no paranormal evidence whatsoever. The only thing we captured was an EVP of the homeowner's voice telling us to get out. And we also have her on video at the exact same time. She wasn't talking. Huh. So we think it was like a psychic imprint or something like that on our digital voice recorder. But other than that, no evidence. And she sat on the phone, 70 years old, walks with a cane, cutest little woman you'd ever want to see at that age. But she's on the phone crying with me. I'm not crazy. And it broke my heart that we couldn't solidify her experiences.
Yeah.
We did multiple investigations in her home. So it was kind of like
similar situation. We've been working on a case since last September. And the spirits in the home keep changing the questions. And it's become so frustrating because we want to help this lady so much. But when we think we have the answers, they change the questions and we just can't get to the bottom of it. And, and then you have cases where they just flat out want a ghost and you can't provide that for them. And then you don't know what you're doing. I used to get really bothered by those. But the older and grumpier I get, the easier it is for me to be like, okay, that's fine. You don't like me. We'll move on and help the next one.
Yeah. And it's funny because we had one case too out in Vegas where this poor woman, the activity was already there, but it was, it spiked because her daughter was dabbling with the Ouija board and playing around with things that she didn't know what she was doing.
Uh-oh, I think you have another storm. You froze on me.
The investigation. I'm frozen. Did I lose you? Hey, am I back?
I hear you.
Okay. I'm like checking everything on my phone and I don't know what's going on. And this is the only window on my computer.
Yeah, you started to break up and then you froze and I was like, I think we got another storm.
Right. Yeah. And I'm moving, but you're frozen on my end. Really? So I was like, he froze, but yep. Nope. Internet seems to be working everywhere else in the house. Perfectly fine. Go figure.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry about that. But anyway, where I was saying is this poor woman, she ended up selling her house just because she didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah. And you don't want to break it to her that might not be the solution either.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah. And we haven't heard from her, so we don't know. I think one of the investigators heard from her shortly after she moved, and nothing was happening yet, but who knows?
we the case that ended up on Paranormal Witness back in 2013, we started working on that case in 2010 and worked on it until 2012. So we really got to know that family, and to this day they're great friends. So that's why I say I feel old, because I've actually watched their kids grow up. Their daughter was 13 when we did the case, and she's now 26. and I wished her a happy birthday on Facebook a few days ago. Yeah, but I mean, that's another part that people don't tell you is, sometimes these clients become family. And they end up being a part of your life, whether you want them to be or not. And also I've said before, like the follow-up, like I would love to give you updates on everybody we've ever helped. But I think that's all I would be able to do. Because out of the 300 cases we've done, it's probably 125 families. It's multiple investigations for, each case. But, sending out emails to 125 people just to ask how they're doing, that'd be like a full-time job. But I'm always here if they need me. I'm always here if they just want to chat. So, there's some that you grow closer to than others. But yeah, it's that's part of it that they don't tell you either is, you might grow your family accidentally.
Yeah.
We've done that in a few instances.
Yeah. I always try to stay distant while still being there to help them. But it's hard because you spend so much time with these, with your clients that you can't help but become friends.
Yeah. And I think, you spend that much time with somebody, and like you do put your heart and soul into the investigation. It's tough not to, appreciate them as people. There are also there's also some clients that I've just downright not liked. But we still do our best to help them. Just because you don't agree with them and their opinions on things, doesn't mean that we're not there to help. So I pride myself in that too. It's like, I don't have to agree with you on everything and be your best friend to help you. So.
Yeah, exactly. And real quick, I mean, we still have plenty of time, but I wanted to touch on the books you've written.
Sure.
Do you mind sharing information about them, or what inspired? I always like to know what inspired you to write them.
The first book I wrote was All Roads Lead to the Paranormal, and if I'm being honest, it was horrible. It's no longer in print. And then the second book was The Endless Road, and it's basically a continuation. So it includes everything that was in the first book. It's just my life from 8 years old until now. If you search The Endless Road, Tim Maile on Amazon.com, you can find the book. The book's 7 years old already, though. So, I mean, a lot has changed. But I mean, I start the book with me being 8 years old and my dad getting hit by a construction vehicle, putting out cones at the end of the day at my school. And he was in a coma for 6.5 years. And that's how life started for me. And then I just kind of go from there. And I go into, the suicide attempt. I go into the depression. And then I do get into, specific cases. I go into greater detail than Paranormal Witness did on the case that ended up on TV. Just sharing a lot of my theories about the paranormal and how we do cases. So it has a little bit of everything. It's kind of an autobiography, and then a hybrid paranormal book too. It was therapeutic when I wrote it because I had to relive everything. When you're 8 years old and they tell you your dad may never wake up, that's a tough thing to digest and process. And even when he passed away when I was 15, I don't think I completely understood what was happening. My brain had kind of tried to protect me from that stuff, and it's either you grow up really quick or you slip into this neverland zone, and I think I did a little of both.
Right.
But yeah, that's where the book starts, and then it goes until, you know, the cases we had done up until 2016. So I think it's an interesting read. It's self-published, so, you know, I didn't pay any big time editors. So if you're in the market for a book that looks like it was written by a 12-year-old, I'm your man. But there was a lot of heart that went into the book, and a lot of feeling, and a lot of emotion. So I'm still proud of it. I'm currently working on a book now that is about Murray. And I've been working on that book for a few years, and it just never seems to go anywhere because honestly, my heart and my mind can't take it yet. You know, I start getting into those stories, and I'm like, I got to walk away from this for a while. So eventually that'll come out, and hopefully people will enjoy that book.
And one thing that I was thinking of while you were talking is Paranormal Witness. When you were on that, just out of curiosity, did the clients give permission for that, or did you have to keep everything vague?
The clients were part of the show.
Okay.
Raw Entertainment contacted Scotty Rorick, medium, who had worked with us on that case. Asked him if he had any residential cases that he thought would be good for the show. He contacted me, and originally I didn't want to do it. I really didn't have any interest in it. But then it became, you know, the case revolved around a 2-year-old boy that had been murdered in a foster home. And I wanted to get his story out there. And I thought this is a great opportunity to do that. That case had become so emotionally, I'd become so emotionally attached to that case because of that spirit, that it was really important to me that we get that story told. So I had to talk with Raw Entertainment for like an hour, and just telling them that, you know, this story kind of speaks for itself. I don't want it to be sensationalized. You know, they made me all the promises they had to get the story. I contacted the family and said, you know, would you be okay if we did this? And I told them why I wanted to do it, and they were all for it. So they actually got interviewed for the show.
Okay.
But a few things happened along the way. I got sent home after 6 hours because I was difficult to work with.
No, I'm just kidding.
They kept asking me to phrase things a different way, and I'm like, but that's not how it happened. You know, I wanted to stay true to the case. That was really important to me. And after 6 hours, they just sent me home, and they brought me back the next day and agreed to let me say what I wanted to say. And then they just put it over video that I wasn't talking about. So I didn't have a real good experience with them. If you go back and you see the show itself, they actually show court documents on the screen with the address of the home, which I thought was incredibly irresponsible. And for weeks and months after the show aired, the family was having people drive past their home, and that irritated me. So the entire process, the entire experience was not good. And we had gotten Chris's story out. Chris was a 2-year-old boy, and they did tell his story without any sensationalism, but everything else in the show was over the top. And it's probably why I haven't been asked to do TV for the last 10 years. So, but yeah, it was a difficult experience. I'm glad we went through it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know if I'd do it again.
Yeah. No, I recently, I don't even know when it's going to come out, but I recently had filmed a TV series real quick. And it was one of those things where they kept pausing, because we did it virtually, because they wanted information about a location in Nevada that with my not being there anymore. And they kept pausing it and saying, no, we want you to say this. And it's like, more time was wasted to go back and say it a different way.
Yeah. And that was a frustrating part for me, is I want people to see what we actually do and what we actually did. And and that's not always sexy, and that's not always fun.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to do what gets them advertisers and ratings and all
Yeah.
that good stuff. So, but I mean, it was when the episode came out, it was popular.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people loved it, and you know, it isn't all bad because for the most part, that's the reason I get to do events now. You know, it opened up doors for me, and it helps me get to the point where I can raise money for the animals. So everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a reason that I've been asked to do it for the last 10 years, and that's fine.
And then all of a sudden your phone will start ringing and it won't stop.
Yeah. Well, I am unemployed now, so if anybody wants to put me on TV, this is your time.
Now's the time.
I will say and do whatever you need me to say and do. That's not true, but yeah, I mean, this is, when I lost my job, everybody was like, "Well, this is just going to open up, bigger and better things," and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to. I mean, if if TV came calling, I'm sure I'd listen. Especially at this point. What do I have to lose? But I'm sure I would listen, but it would be tough to just walk away from everything I'm doing now and focus on a show. And but never say never.
Right.
The right idea comes along, the right offer comes along, and who knows, you might see my ugly mug on your TV screens, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
As I always say, on to bigger and better things.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I recently left a project I was working on, and I was just like, you know what, this is for the best. It's there's always something better out there.
I sure hope so. I've got a couple things that might end up being good here, but it's just the work I was doing before, so it's not anything exciting or anything like that, but it pays the bills and it keeps my roof over my head. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. So I got to get that in line before I can think about anything else.
Yep. And then one question I always ask, we were talking about residentials a little bit ago. It can be a residential or any other investigation that you've done, but what would you say is your most memorable experience?
Memorable experience. I don't know if you've been to the Hinsdale house.
No, I've heard of it though.
Dan and I are very good friends. We've actually done a couple of photographs events there. Dan Class is the owner, and we had gone out there, myself, Todd, and another girl from the team, Stefan, to investigate in the Hinsdale house by ourselves for 2 days. We'd gotten the whole weekend. It was my birthday weekend. Dan met us out there with the famous buffalo wings, and we were having a great time. Very, very active location. And the last night we were there, I was in the kitchen with Todd. Stephanie was by herself in the living room. And if anybody's ever been to the Hinsdale house, there's a porch, and then they have like a mail slot at eye level where you can return the keys after you're done. And Todd and I are in the kitchen, and we start hearing all these heel to toe footsteps on the porch outside. And the Hinsdale house is in the middle of nowhere. So if you see headlights, you know that they're coming to you, and they come out there quite often to just take photos of the building, which is a little unnerving. I trust spirits much more than I trust real people. But so we didn't see any headlights. We were keeping an eye on that. So then it's like, okay, are these real people? Do we actually have people right outside the door? There's only 3 of us there. And I remember looking at Todd and going, all right, buddy, here's the deal. If that mail slot opens and there's real people on the porch, it's on. And I got to know that you got my back, because I'm not going out like this. And all of a sudden the footsteps just stopped. And after about a minute or so, we went outside to kind of check the perimeter and check down the road and stuff, and there was nobody there. So that was a pretty unique experience. I like to use that one because most people know of that location, so they can relate to it a little bit. But yeah, there's been investigations where I've been punched, I've been hit in the back, I've been pushed in the back, and all of it is just so strange because by the time it happens and you go to react, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of my favorite things is when you interview prospective new team members and they tell you, I'm not afraid of anything. That's easy to say until you've been touched by something you can't see. Mm-hmm. Then we'll see how you react. So it's those few are the ones that really come to mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or how do you fight back with something you can't touch?
Exactly. The one time I was hit. Your first instinct is to swing back, and there's nothing there, and then you kind of look around, like you feel like an idiot because then at that point your mind is like, okay, did this really happen?
Right.
You know, because I'm always second guessing myself. I'm always questioning. That's one of the fun things with my brain is I'm never happy with anything. I always want to do better.
Right.
And, so I think about investigations we did 8, 9, 10 years ago and, why'd we do it this way? We could have gotten so much more responses if we had taken it a different direction. And my brain does shut off and it can be frustrating at times. And other times it's an asset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do the same thing. It's like, and then if you go back to the location, you forget everything that you said you should have done. But yeah, and it's funny, when I was attacked on an investigation once, here I am being the mom. I stand up and I start yelling at it like it's a 2-year-old toddler. I'm like, we don't do that. That's not how you treat people.
I have a rule, and if things are going to get sour on an investigation, I always tell the spirits, we're here to respect you. We're here to talk to you. As long as you show us respect, we'll show you respect. But yeah, there's been a couple of times where things have happened to my team members, and I've turned into Father Bear, and just been like, okay, this isn't going to fly for me anymore. You know, we tried being nice to you. We tried we tried being respectful, and you apparently don't want that. So I'm also that guy though, that like, if we go to a place and they say nobody goes in there alone, well, I go in there alone. Nobody goes in the basement because there's an evil presence. Well, then I go in the basement and I want to talk, like, because how many times have you heard, hey, there's an evil presence in the basement? You go down there and like, tell me your story. Everybody says you're evil. What's the real deal here? Have you ever had anybody come down here and actually want to talk to you, or do they come down and just taunt you?
Right.
Show me what you can do, that type of thing. I like to try to connect with the spirit on an emotional level, and sometimes that works. Maybe that'll be the way I go out. I don't know. I'll go down into a basement and not believe it's evil, and the next thing you know, you won't see Tim again. But
where'd Tim go? He went to the basement. Oh,
yeah. We haven't seen him for 3 days. What happened? But I kind of pride myself in that. Like, I want to be that voice that gives them a voice. What's the real story? Because I've heard all of these rumors, I've heard all of these stories, these tales, and I'm giving you a chance to tell me yourself. We did that at Ashmore Estates last April, and was working with a medium in the basement. It was a public investigation. It was for photographs. And they always said that there's this grumpy maintenance guy downstairs. We actually had a conversation with him through the medium. And then we switched out, and the next group came down, and one lady walked into the room, and the first thing she said was, I hear there's a-hole in this room. And the entire dynamic of the investigation changed. Like, all of a sudden, he didn't want to talk to us. And I think it had a lot to do with us treating him like a person, the first rotation, and telling him, hey, we want to talk to you, we care about you. And then that all changed with one comment. So compassion and empathy, I keep going back to it, but
Yeah, usually when I start an investigation, I'll sit down and I'll be like, hey, I'm here to talk to you, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Mhm.
And I'll start talking about myself at first, introducing myself like you would someone new. And then I just say, if you have questions, let me know. And I sit there for 5 to 10 minutes to see if any EVPs come up, and I'll do quick burst sessions and go back and listen to it.
Yep.
And I've had some questions, not really questions come up, but just interesting EVPs that were just more like they were calm and were interested.
Yeah, I think it took us a while to figure that out, like I said earlier, but just treat them like they're in the room with you. I mean, they had families, they had goals, they had hopes, they had dreams, jobs. Talk to them about that stuff.
Right.
And I think what you find is, the majority of the time they answer better to that stuff than they do, do you know you're dead? What year is it?
How did you die?
Yeah. The first question, do you know you're dead? Okay. For argument's sake, what if they say no? Now what? Like,
now you got to console the spirit.
Yeah. We just need to be more careful with what we're doing. And there I am, old man, get off my lawn on my soapbox again. But yeah, I'm really not this crabby in
you just haven't had enough coffee yet.
Yeah. I can't drink coffee. Coffee hates my body. So it's I had a big glass of V8. That's the best I can do this morning.
That's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another quick question, because we have about 20 minutes left before we get to starting to close out the show. I wanted to find out one question that I run across a lot, or disagreement, is the idea of researching a location. I know, of course, and this isn't talking about psychics or mediums. You kind of want to shield them from any information about the location. But what are your thoughts on knowing the history of the location before actually going to it?
I see both sides of the argument. For me, I like to know as much as I can before going in, because I can gear questions towards people I believe are in the home, things that may have happened in the home, on the land. Then the opposite side of it is people don't want to know anything because they're afraid that they're going to target those questions and miss stuff that's on the outlier.
Right.
And stuff that you wouldn't find in research if you just went in there cold. So I see both sides of it. When we do use mediums, I never tell them anything about the location. Don't even tell them where we're going until
go
they're
pick
ready.
them up.
Yeah. I see both sides, but for me, I like to know as much as I can. That's not always possible because sometimes you have to go in right away, and you have to go in blind. And so I've done both. I've had success both ways. I do find sometimes, this is off topic, but that's what I do. I've used the Ovilus before, and I don't have a problem with the device itself. No issues with it. I just see sometimes people see words that make no sense, and then they change their entire thought process and investigation to match that word that came through randomly.
Yep.
And that one irritates me and bothers me, because it's like, okay, we weren't talking about any of this, and all of a sudden it says creek, and there's no water on the property, but you're like, oh, there must have been a creek here. And then they start asking about the creek that used to be there, and so that stuff is just like, what are you doing? But yeah, when it comes to research, for me, I like to know as much as I can, but it can be a detriment because you focus everything on what you know, and you might miss stuff that's on the outside and stuff that you may not have thought of. What do you prefer?
I actually prefer researching ahead of time, and mostly it's because it proved its worth. I was the only person on the team to deep dive as much as I did. I mean, I'm known for going down rabbit holes for days when it comes to stuff. And we were going to investigate a location that was built on top of an old Mormon settlement. And it was built, I would say, in the late 90s. So there was still a chance that and it was for the FLDS. So there was still a chance that Rulon Jeffs was still in charge at the time when it was torn down. And we were doing a spirit box session, and one of the girls had said, who's the current president? And we got Jeffs, clear as can be. And we asked again and got Jeffs again. And the girl's like, no, that's wrong. That's not the current president. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute. Because I had gone down that whole rabbit hole of, I watched every documentary possible on not just the history of the land, but the history of the culture. Mm-hmm. So, and I knew that, fundamentalist Mormons think of whoever the prophet is president. And if it was a more recent spirit that was there, they could possibly have thought Rulon Jeffs was the president at the time. And it was very interesting how, whether or not it was true, but it was just interesting how I was able to connect that during an investigation. And that changed our whole thought process on who we were interacting with. That
is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And then going back to the obelisk, I always used to be like hesitant with it. I was like, I don't know if but one of our team members had one. This was when I was in Vegas on a team, and I was wandering through our location, and I didn't realize it, but I had turned a corner. So my team was no longer in view because they had stopped to conduct an EVP session, and I'm in my own little world. Didn't even notice that I was away from them. Thing had been silent all night. And then once I was out of their sight, it was death, devil, demon, sacrifice. Huh. Came up right after each other. And I was like, well, who are you going to sacrifice? And then the word you came up as something ran its finger down my back. Huh. I turned around and realized I was alone. I was like, nope, not today. And I walked as quickly as I could to go back to the rest of the team. So ever since then, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe there is some validity to that. Yeah. But yeah, I like researching anyway. So if no one else on the team or group wants to do research, they can count on the fact that I will. And I'll let them do their thing, but I'll be there with information for them.
Yeah, I get lost. I'll go to the library, mm-hmm. and I get lost for hours. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, crap, 6 hours have gone by. You're just trying to get everything you can on that location. Mm-hmm. Mostly the address. Has anything happened at this address? And mm-hmm. Just kind of, like you said, go down a rabbit hole. And mm-hmm. the next thing you know, your whole day is gone.
Yeah, I know before COVID hit, we were filming a pilot to a TV series that ended up getting shelved because COVID. But I had heard they were interviewing the investigators one-on-one. And the producer was like, can you tell us more about the Nevada Triangle? And at the time I was like, I had no clue what it was. And I was off camera, and the person who was being interviewed didn't know, I've never heard of that before. So there I am. I immediately pull out my phone. I got lost, and they're like, Heather, it's your turn. And I'm like, what? And then they never asked me that question. But yeah, I was, and that's what I like about our technology nowadays is we can do that on the spot, researching.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, speaking of technology, one of my favorite things to do on an investigation, if we know the time period of the spirit that we're dealing with, I like to pull up good old trusty YouTube, mm-hmm. and just play some period music or some music from when they were around. Mm-hmm. Try to involve them and see if we can get any kind of interaction that way. Mm-hmm. Plus, I'm kind of a sucker for all that music from the 1910s and the 1920s. Yeah. So if I get an excuse to do that, then we're listening to it for like 10 minutes.
Right.
But I think it gets, it piques their interest. Mm-hmm. And again, you're just making an effort to connect with them on a human level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's nice having our phones at our fingertips. I usually don't like bringing a phone with me, but we did one investigation, and it was an old mob hangout. And it was basically, we were taking the employees of the location around to show them that there was nothing to be afraid of because people were quitting left and right. And we had gotten, during an EVP burst session, a name. And then we also found out that he was a police officer. And when we started researching the name, it came up that he had been murdered, and it was believed to be by the mob people that he was trying to take down.
Wow.
And he was murdered like less than 100 yards from where we were investigating. And without our phones, we would have had to have waited until we got home
Yeah.
to try to find that information. And we would have kind of been left going blind the rest of the way. And you're falling asleep on me.
I am. Since I became unemployed, it's very difficult for me to get up in the morning and be chipper. So I'm not falling asleep on you. I'm just yawning in general. So
I'm just teasing and joking.
But yeah, I mean, research has always been a big part of what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I've talked to people and I've listened to their arguments for why they don't want to do it, and I understand their point of view too. Which I think the rest of America could really learn from that. That we could talk to somebody that doesn't have the same thoughts and ideas as us, and we could still be civil.
Mm-hmm.
So Be better, people. Be better.
Exactly. So real quick before we start closing out, can you let everybody know where they can find you if they want more information?
If they just want to talk to me in general and want to be a part of my life, they can find me on Facebook. It's just Tim Maile, Maile.
Mm-hmm.
I will warn you that I post things that I think are funny. I will post things that make you cry, and I will post a lot of event announcements. So those are the three things you can look forward to. You can find Fox Cities Paranormal Team at foxcitiesparanormalteam.com. And then there's potographsforpooches.com. There's also a Potographs for Pooches Facebook page. So find all of those. Find me on Facebook. Tell me you listened this morning. Let's talk about stuff. I hear there's a work from home option.
Oh, yeah, I was going to get there for you.
That I'm supposed to talk to somebody about.
Yeah, I can talk about it real quick. I usually do a shout out at the end of the show, but I was actually going to message you because Lee keeps bringing it up. Thank you, Lee, for your support. But my husband's company actually sponsors the show, and it's called Omni Interactions, and they're a work from home call center. And you can set your hours however you want to do them in 30-minute to hour increments. If you want to work 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, you can do so. It's basically a company that you can work your schedule around your life. So if you want more information about that, I can get that to you.
Yeah, I'm open to anything at this point. I just need to put food on the table. So mostly for the dogs.
Definitely. I'll make sure I get that link. And for those of you watching, you can also find the link on my website at heatherleighphd.com under Exploring the Paranormal. But my husband's been with them. He's actually in workforce management, and he's been with them for a couple of years now since COVID hit. And he absolutely loves being able, even he works from home.
Cool.
So, but yeah, they're a great company. And again, thank you, Tim, for joining me today. Hopefully we can get you on the show again. And if you do get a day job, I have a night show.
Yeah, I'll do. Hopefully the next time we talk, it's a night show. Not because I don't like doing the morning show. It just means that I'm employed again.
Right. Exactly. And so I'm actually going to let you go. I still have a few minutes, so I'm going to do a few closing things. But you have a great day, and I do appreciate you joining me today. Thank
you so much for having me on, and I hope I didn't bore people to death.
No, actually, like I said, this is the busiest the chat's been.
Thanks everybody for listening and watching, and you guys all take care. Thanks.
Thank you for joining. Yeah, amazing guest. Absolutely loved him. Hopefully, like he said, I'll get him on the show again, and if he's employed, I'll definitely let you guys know when he does join me on Ghost Education 101. And again, thank you, Lee, for bringing that up. I did see your comments. I was just waiting for the perfect time to bring it up, and he brought up the perfect time to bring that up. So I'll make sure I get him the information. And again, if anyone has any questions about our sponsor, Omni Interactions, you can go to heatherleighphd.com, or you can go to getgig.life/paranormal. I think I got that right because I closed out the screen that it was on there. But again, like I said, it's all on my website. And also if you go to at Dr. Heather Leigh on Facebook, or not Dr. Heather Leigh, at Exploring the Paranormal Show on Facebook, you can get all the direct links and more information about the opportunities to work for them. And again, thank you everybody for interacting. I'm so happy to have you guys commenting. Love to have you guys here. If it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this show. Love what I do. Love being here. Of course, as always, thank you, Todd, for working in the background and dealing with my internet issues. And, guess what? Of course, it's sunny out now. So the little bit of clouds and the rumbling has passed by. And again, before I go, just a reminder, don't forget tomorrow night is, I'm just reading something, make sure I have. Yep. Tomorrow night, we will be doing at 9 p.m. Eastern on Ghost Education 101 on Facebook. You can join us for a show on the idea of para-unity and team conduct, which we actually touched a little bit today. So if someone drops out of my show, I might try to get Tim on there for that show. We have a great panel of guests, Christopher George, my co-host Philip Wyatt, David Taylor, Larry Lawson, and Steve Dills will be joining us and a panel discussion on all of that. So feel free to join that and listen, share any questions you guys might have about anything. I mean, we might have a topic, but as always, you guys know we're always open to talk about anything. You can catch my books on Amazon or at arcadiapublishing.com. It's Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns and Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley. And of course, Haunted Florida Lighthouses will be out later this year. And before we go, I just got notification. Next week's guest had to cancel, so I've been scrambling to try to find someone for next week. I actually got the message notification from him, and I will be having Tony Spera from Nesper. He is married to Ed and Lorraine Warren's daughter, Judy, and he will be on the show next week to discuss all things paranormal, his experience with the Warrens, and also what has, what Nesper has, his 28 days show that he did, and also their upcoming convention later this year. So some amazing things coming next week. And again, I'm babbling, so I'm going to let you guys go. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys next Tuesday.
The truth is here and now on WLTKDB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.